Welcome to Terror Talk on the Terror Express. I'm Jason Bradford, and we are here with the author of A Bloody Halloween, Jimmy Pressley, and we are in a part 7 of a 9-part episode event here. We are talking about the Friday the 13th franchise, the Paramount editions, and today we are on Friday the 13th, part 7, The New Blood. Jimmy, are you ready for this one?
I'm ready, man. I
Are you
love
ready?
Seven.
You ready to cruise into this one? Dr. Cruise into this one?
I love Terry. Yes.
Yes, I do too. So I know we keep saying that these movies are sentimental to us, and I know they are. They're sentimental to you, and they're sentimental to me. That's because we grew up with these films, and I think that's why the Paramount 8 is so beloved by us because we were younger when they came out, as opposed to the New Line movies. I first saw Part 7 when I was in, I want to say, seventh grade, and I ended up writing an English report on it, and my English teacher gave me an A plus. So
Wow.
I was able to tell Laura Park Lincoln that on a chat group she had on Facebook once, and she asked if I still had it to send it to her, which I don't. So the point of that story is definitely not even worth mentioning, but I did anyways.
I like it.
So what was your take on Friday the 13th, part 7?
I like that. I don't know if I mentioned this during our recording of the other ones, but it's weird because part seven was one that literally got away from me between six and eight. I remember we'll talk about this later, seeing part eight was coming out, and I was like, well, where's part seven? Like, the next time we went to the video store, there it was, and I love the case, and I thought, wow, this looks frightening, like the mask, and you seen the back of the case, and I remember my
Yes.
mom let me rent it, and I was
Hmm.
shocked, and I've been a fan ever since. It's
Hmm.
one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was the top of my list for a very long time too. And I like the fact that this is the movie that introduces another antagonist besides Jason. Actually, this film had two of them. Obviously, they weren't murderous, hell-bent, vengeful seeking, axe-wielding maniacs, but we were talking Dr. Cruz and Melissa,
Right.
the other bullies of the movie, if you will. I think this is the first movie that really has those characters that created conflict for our final girl, which would
Yeah.
eventually carry on to most of the films to come. So I like to say Dr. Cruz and Melissa were definitely a strong influence on what would be future installments.
Yeah. Future. They
It
were
was,
trendsetters before it was popular.
yes, yep, absolutely. It was just a chemistry that worked really well. So what do you think of Tina as the final girl, played by Laura Park Lincoln?
She's right in the middle for me. I have nothing against her at all.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people look at movies and some people take them a little too serious. But I'm like, it's entertainment, whether you believe it or not. And I thought it was great to come up with a new concept, a new way to fight Jason. Like you don't really
Yes.
stand a chance with zombie Jason unless you do have psychic powers. So I thought it was perfect. I loved it. I thought she was a
Yes.
great character.
Yeah, I liked her a lot too. I thought she was a great character. She was very, very likable. I liked the young Tina as well, played by Jennifer Banco.
Right.
Um, Now here's the thing with Tina, and this is just things that I've learned in the past. I don't know if the source is reliable or not. Perhaps listeners, if you're listening, if you know the actual answer to this, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Put it in the comments. But Paramount tried to get the copyright release for the character of Carrie, owned by, I believe it was MGM, Carrie White, Stephen King character. Obviously, they weren't able to get it. They wanted it to be Jason versus Carrie, a crossover, but they weren't able to get rights to that character. I don't know if it was the movie studio or if it was Stephen King, but anyway, so they made a Carrie-like character and named her Tina Shepard, and that's how we got the pyrokinesis, telekinesis, the ability to see the future and all that stuff. It came about as a Carrie ripoff,
Yeah.
which makes this movie a double hitter because Friday the 13th is a Halloween ripoff, and now we have Tina, who's a Carrie ripoff. This is like this is the major rip-off movie, but what fun.
It is, and I it's it never really occurred to me. I'd heard the story before about Carrie somehow being involved, and I'd forgotten, so I don't know the details. But when I look at it, it's just I think it would have been cool to see that. Otherwise, I just look at it as kind of a Texas Chainsaw 3 precursor, or maybe even
Yeah,
which one came first? I think Friday
I
7
think
came first
I
for us.
think Friday 7 came first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because two
and
of the
obviously,
people from that are in,
yeah,
the Chainsaw 3. So,
right. Yeah, right. Benko went on to play Leatherface's daughter. And who else
right.
from part 7 was in part 3 of the Texas
William
Chainsaw?
Butler, or his character in the woods that gets stabbed with the
Ah,
tent spike. He was,
yes. Yes,
yeah,
yes. I never put two and two together.
yeah, yeah. I love
Yeah,
that, and because it's one of my favorite
nice.
Chainsaw movies. So,
Yeah, I liked it
it,
too. It's
mhm,
underrated for sure.
yes, it really is.
Yes.
Just like I think part 7 of Friday the 13th is, while we're on that subject. I think a lot of people don't really
Yeah.
talk about it other than Kane Hodder and the makeup, which is great.
Yeah.
But
Let's talk about Kane Hodder and the makeup. How phenomenal was the
ooh,
makeup in part 7? It has got to be one of the the best looking Jasons, and I don't think a majority of fans would disagree with us. I'm pretty sure even you agree that his makeup in 7 was stellar.
yeah, it was superior to any of the other films, as good as some of them were, and probably even to horror at that time. I mean, there weren't many movies that did full body suits like that, and
Right, right.
you know,
I mean,
it's just
you had his knees, the joints working in his knees. You could see his teeth through the rotting opening of his jaw. Now, I
yeah,
will say Richard Broker was still my Richard Broker. Broker? I will say
it
Richard
worked.
Broker was still my
Yeah,
favorite Jason ever, but my favorite look of Jason was Kane Hodder in part 7. I think that was created what I think is the iconic look of what Jason uh, what people think of when they think of Jason, they think of part 7, I think
oh
primarily.
yeah,
From what I've
yeah.
heard.
I do too. And 3 and 4 were so close, in the look with Ted White and Richard. I think some people are divided between, there's living Jason and zombie Jason. So
Hmm.
there weren't many with living Jason, not compared to zombie now. But I love Ted White playing him, and which I didn't really mention in 4. But Kane, I think is probably number 2 or 3 on my list, and
Yeah.
he'd probably be pissed off to hear me say that. But I love Kane, but geez,
Yeah, yeah, he's a great
oh,
people
he's
person.
something else. Yeah, he is.
What do you think of the storyline, the way it flows? Was there anything about the storyline of part 7? Obviously, it was very similar to the prior movies, but it had its new additions that made it different. What was your take on the overall feel and vibe of the story?
Well, it's broken down to so many little sub stories with the party next door, and then the Tina story, and then the Jason continuation. And I thought it flowed pretty well. I thought when I was a kid, I thought it was a little slow in the beginning with the Tina Dr. Cruz stuff, but as I got older, understood it more and what was going
Hmm.
on and how she felt, how he felt, and
Hmm.
I learned to really accept it, and it's fine. It flows fine for me now. But other than
Yeah.
that, being a kid, it was different. But yeah,
Yeah, I like the performances in part 7. I thought Kevin Blair was great. I thought Susan Blue was great. Obviously, Terry Kaiser, who played Dr. Cruz, was great. I think everyone, performance-wise, I think this one definitely is up there at the top, toward the top, maybe not the very top. But I mean, when you think of the acting, even my all-time favorite part 3, I will admit that acting was pretty atrocious in some scenes. I won't name any names or characters to give it away. Chili, excuse me.
oh,
But some of them are really bad. But part 7, I
oh,
liked I liked the performances.
oh yeah, yeah, I did
But
too. It honestly, when I looking back, it probably is one of the more well acted all the way through. There's a
hmm
few little things I'm not going to nitpick. I don't want actors getting mad, but it's just, yeah, I think it was superior. And Never. I'll tell you the story about Chili when we stop recording. It's so funny that you
Hmm.
brought up Chili because I love her, but I got
Right,
to tell
right.
you something about a specific scene later.
Okay. You can say it now if you want.
Well, I'll real quick. My sons, when they watch it with me, I introduced them to the series. Good move or not, I don't know, but when they were young, and every one of them said to me as they watched it for the first time, when Chili is screaming,
Hmm.
uh, you know, uh,
Shelly's dead.
exactly
She's
right. Everybody knows
dead.
that thing, right? And I'm like, you
Right,
know
yeah.
what? Maybe she's actually doing a really good job. She's frozen in fear and she's panicking. She was sick that night, which no one really knew, but um, I thought if you really think about how someone would freeze up and act, I thought she did a good job, but there's no short way to tell that story. It depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, yeah, I guess if your glass is half full or half empty, or maybe somebody else's glass altogether.
Yeah, just for chili here, but yeah.
Just for chili, just for chili. But but back to part seven. We talked a little bit about the character of Melissa as being another antagonist in the movie. In part eight, which we'll talk about in our next episode, we have Tamara, who I think mirrors Melissa a lot. There, I know the two characters are compared and put up in a versus contest, like who is the biggest bitch. But
Oh,
what's your take on Melissa, played by Susan Jennifer Sullivan? And do you think that Susan? There's a lot of controversy. A lot of people think she's dead. A lot of people think she's alive. There is, I believe it was in the one of the documentaries, uh, Crystal Lake Memories, commented that she had passed away from cancer.
right.
But so I don't know the accuracy. You can research it. I have researched it. There's no definitive answer, but so the two-part question. Let me reiterate that. What do you think of Melissa, and do you think Susan Jennifer Sullivan is alive or not?
Mhm. Yeah, Melissa really got under my skin. I thought the actress played her well, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I couldn't help but like her. She was one of those characters for
Same.
some reason she's polarizing, and she
Mm-hmm.
drew me
Same.
to her.
Yes, and it
So,
made her death all that much more sweet when she got it because it was
yeah,
so
well,
deserved. It
yeah,
was it made it that much more pleasurable as the viewer.
yeah, boy, that moment, yeah, yeah. Whether she's passed away or not, I really don't know. I've heard the same thing both, and there's no definitive answer, like you said. And
Yeah, right,
if she
right.
has, I hope she's resting in peace. But
Hmm.
otherwise, I want to give her, if she ever hears this, props. I thought she did a great job acting, and I heard she was a
She did.
sweetheart in real life. So,
Yes, I've heard that as well. But hopefully I am with you on that. I like to think she is still alive as well and living her best life in privacy. Obviously, if she wanted to be known that she was alive, she would make herself known. But a lot of people, they like their privacy and
oh
don't
yeah,
care to pursue anything beyond that. But so
yeah.
moving on, let's compare Tina back to Tina here a little bit. Let's compare her to some of the other final girls here. And the reason why I hold Chris from part three as my favorite final girl is because she's really physically and mentally advanced, like stronger, I think, than any of the other final girls. She really sticks it to Jason, whereas Tina, she kicks Jason's ass and she probably puts him through more than any other final girl, but she's not physically against Jason. She stands there and she uses her powers. So that to me is the only reason why I don't give Tina high props as a final girl. Not she's not on the bottom of my list, like I said in part four. Trish and one other final girl that is still yet to be discussed. I know that really narrows it down, but that's why it puts Tina probably around the middle of the final girl list for me. Where does Tina stand with you?
Yeah, like I said, she's in the middle for me. I really liked her. I wish we could have gotten a moment where her powers might have failed due to too much emotion or something. Where
Yes,
you could see
that
where she might have had to be a little physical for a moment,
yeah,
but
that would have been
we
great.
didn't. It's hard to
Right,
judge her because, it just wasn't written that way. So I give her
right.
props. She still kicked his ass all over that camp or that
Yes,
area.
she did. She did. Yeah, and I think the special effects, and thank God they didn't have CGI back then, because I
Oh
love
yeah.
practical, and I think the practical effects in A New Blood are absolutely fantastic. Whoever
Mm,
did the special effects in that were fantastic, and I
very.
thank them for their talents because Lord knows we could have had a mess, a hot mess with what
Oh
we
yeah.
got. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the special makeup effects, what they should have been, would have been absolutely phenomenal. But what we got, I think part seven falls to me as one of the biggest victims of the MPAA. We got
Mm,
jack shit for deaths in part seven.
yeah. Yeah. The cut scenes in that definitive Blu-ray. To see how much they were trimmed. I mean, they had this guy
Hmm.
had some imagination. Whoever wrote this and came up with this stuff, and it's a shame. I
Yeah.
wish they had been able to find some kind of print where they could have restored it. I know
Hmm.
John, the director, passed away, John Carl Beekler, rest his soul, but I know he wanted that definitive cut, and he even said if he could do it, he would. But
Yes. And I wonder why the footage, when you see it on like the Blu-ray special features, the footage is so bad. I don't
yeah,
understand where the footage came from that it would look that bad. Even the footage from part two that recently resurfaced within the last couple of years looks superior to the part seven footage, which it looks like an old copy of a copy of a copy of a bootleg VHS tape with bad
yeah.
tracking. That's to me what that looked like. It's almost like you can't even see it.
That's what I heard it was from part seven. It was a VHS copy of all the cut stuff. They had a work
Mm,
print of the movie. And then they did the deleted scenes, got their own print. It was on VHS, and I don't know why they didn't up the quality like they did for two. Maybe because two was talked about for so long, the mystery of the stabbing in the bed, especially that they just felt like they could spend the money on such a short amount of tape to restore it, and maybe they didn't want to in seven because there was a lot more cut in seven. It might have cost a fortune
yes,
to restore that, but
yes, and I
I
believe
don't know.
seven would have been NC-17 or X
Oh
if
yeah.
it had been released the way John Carl wanted it released.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the music of part seven. Now we have Harry Manfredini, who has done all of the installments up from the original through this one. Only now we have Fred Mullen brought on, who also did the music in the Friday the 13th series with Robbie.
Right.
Um, what do you think with the music of part seven? Do you think Fred Mullen did a good job with the music? Do you like his take on it? Did we miss the Harry Manfredini? I know we had recycled Manfredini music in part seven, so we didn't lose the sounds that we were used to, but it was a little bit of a fresh take by Fred. What do you think of the music?
Yeah, I liked it. It's nothing that really stands out when I think of seven. I can hear the music in my head,
Mm-hmm.
and it was okay. We'll talk about eight, of course, another day. But
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I thought it captured a mood that hadn't been captured. But I think what saved the movie was the recycled Manfredini stuff. 'Cause to hear it and feel those moments when it popped up and those themes from, especially they used a lot from six.
Yeah.
That kind of kept it going. Kept the movie moving forward for me. It just felt like, okay, this did happen next. I mean, I think Manfredini kept the spirit of that movie, that
Yeah.
series alive.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Speaking of the spirit of the movie, we had Walt Gorney, who played Crazy Ralph in the first two films. He contributed a little bit to part seven, and I don't know if a lot of fans know this. Little Friday the 13th trivia here for you, but the narrator in the beginning of part seven, there's a legend around here, a killer buried but not dead. That the opening monologue, that was Walt Gorney,
Yeah, yeah,
uncredited.
yeah. I've had people yell at me saying that that's not true, that they had proven it otherwise, that it was someone else, and then I have other people arguing, that's it, that's it.
Yeah,
No matter
that
what, that's a great opening. And if it
it is.
was
It is a
Walt,
great opening. Yes, a
yeah,
great dialogue for sure. And if
it
that wasn't
was.
Walt Gorney, whoever's listening here, drop a link into the comments here. Show us your source. I would love to look into that with an open mind. And uh,
Mm,
I like to believe it was Walt, though,
me too.
uh, just for trivia's sake.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too, man.
So are there any other characters in Friday the 13th Part 7 that you would like to touch on a little bit, or maybe even some other crew behind the camera that you'd like to mention before we get into our final questions of favorite, non-favorite kills in the scene in the film?
Right. Yeah, I'll try to make this quick. I really loved. We talked about Dr. Cruz. I was really a fan of his work. I love Terry.
Hmm.
I loved her mom, Tina's mom. But honestly, my favorite character besides obviously Tina or Jason and Melissa, I love those. But for some reason, that Sandra character, even though she was kind of a
Yeah,
rich, kind of
yeah,
snooty, I really liked her character for some reason. So
yeah. I
I'm
liked
not
her
going to get
too.
into it, but yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I liked
no, no, I get you. I like her a lot too. There was one part with Maddie, and
her.
now honestly, I'm gonna say this, and I'm saying this very honestly, Maddie really did not need any touch-up work. But
I
there
agree.
was there was one scene that in the entire movie that really bugged the shit out of me, and it was the scene with Maddie. It was after her little makeover, she goes out into the back and she loses her earring, and this is the part right before Russell before his coochie face corpse falls from the tree.
Yes.
She loses her earring. She doesn't know where she loses that earring, and she starts looking for it in a forest ground covered in millions of leaves.
Yeah.
And
But
she found it. What
yes,
are the
you did.
odds? What are the odds of finding that small earring on a forest floor when you don't know where you lost it, anywhere between the house and where she stood? I just think it would have been better had she not found that earring, and that just I don't know why. It's such a little mundane thing to get pissed about, but it pisses me off every time she pulls that earring. I watch it like it's gonna change. One of these times she's not gonna find it, and I'm gonna be happy.
I'm with you. I don't know what the writer was thinking. Whether she found it or not, it does not matter. But yeah, she did.
Someone asked me, "Why do you watch these movies over and over and over again?" I said, "Because maybe one of these days the ending will change."
Yeah, I know. Right. I'm the same. The same.
Same
Same
with
with
Maddie.
Jaws.
One of these times she's not gonna find that earring, and it will make more sense. But um,
Oh
so
yeah.
let's move on. Let's move on. Let me ask you, Friday the 13th, Part 7. What was your favorite kill or death
That's
scene?
an easy, quick answer. Melissa by far. As quick and as simple as it was with the reverse axe shot. Like you said earlier, it was a sweet moment. You saw it, you felt it coming, you wanted it to, I guess, if you're sick in the head, I guess. I didn't really want it to, but damn, that was, I mean, she's like, well, fuck you both. And wham, it's just like, holy, yeah, that was my favorite by far. It's simple, but I
Yeah,
loved it.
yeah, it was a good one. I like the build up for Maddie's death scene. I remember the first time I saw it, just her watching Jason through the little slats of the thin boards
Oh,
when
yeah.
he was getting the weapon. That was pretty intense. But I think my favorite kill in Part 7 goes to Kate.
Oh,
A
yeah.
party horn to the eye. I thought that was very original, and I've not seen it before or since. And
Uh,
then when Tina found her and the party horn was still protruding from the eye socket there, I just thought that was a great little touch.
oh, yeah. Yeah, me too.
What's your least favorite in this installment?
And my least favorite is, oh, Lord, what was her name? Maddie's friend.
Robin?
Robin that gets thrown from the window. And of course, we talked in a private chat about how it
Mm-hmm.
resembled the pillowcase originally, the stabbing of the pillowcases for
Uh-huh.
Violet, or
Yeah.
pillows. That's
Yes.
what it looked like. And I didn't like either death. I thought it was kind of weak. And,
Yep.
you
I
know,
I personally and I'm Robin is also my least favorite, so we are definitely on the same level in agreement with our least favorite kill in part 7. I personally would have rather have seen the pillowcase where he sliced her with the machete. It was like he had halved her. But
right.
I thought the throw out the window was so cheap. I mean, here he throws her from the second floor window. She falls. She lands softly on this dirt. Definitely not an impact that would have killed her. And all
Oh,
the
yeah.
glass that broke from the window and was in one shot actually falling behind her never landed.
Nope, it never did.
It's and again, I watch this movie 100 times. Maybe one of these days it'll be different, and we'll get the glass landing on top of her. Maybe she'll have a piece of glass impaled through her that would give her reason to be dead. But for
Yeah,
now. I'm gonna stay that her death was definitely a wasted throwaway death.
definitely. Literally.
Thank you for joining Terror Talk on the Terror Express. Listeners, you can find Jimmy's book on Barnes& and Noble or Amazon. It's called A Bloody Halloween. And you can find me on Cameo, raising funds. 100% of funds will go toward the Maui Animal Foundation Humane Society to help reunite and take care of lost and misplaced animals. Thanks for listening, Jimmy. Thank you for joining us. We'll chat very soon for Jason Takes Manhattan.
Yes.